July. Seeing as God sees, right? Seeing with the eyes of God. What is it? We're looking with love today. I knew that. Courtney Walsh is a writer, and she's a speaker, and she's a motivational speaker. And she has this great quote, and I wanted to start with this. She says, "We've got it all wrong. You didn't come here to master unconditional love. That's where you came from, and that's where you will return. You came here to learn personal love, universal love, messy love, sweaty love, crazy love, broken love, whole love, infused with divinity, lived through the grace of stumbling, demonstrated through the beauty of messing up, often. You didn't come here to be perfect. You already are that. You came here to be gorgeously human. You came here to be flawed and fabulous, and then to rise again into remembering. But unconditional love, stop telling that story. Love, in truth, doesn't need other adjectives. It doesn't require modifiers. It doesn't require the condition of perfection. It only asks that you show up and do your best, that you stay present, that you feel fully, that you shine and fly and laugh and cry and hurt and heal and fall and get back up again and play and work and live and die as you. It's enough. She says, it's enough. That's plenty. And it's an intriguing quote, and I thought it was really worth exploring. Unconditional love, unconditional love. That's where we came from and where we will return, right? Spirit's love for its creation. Total, full, unconditional love, pure love, God's love, whatever we want to call it. Every religion agrees. God is love, and we are that. It is who we are. And like she said, it's where we came from and where we will return. God is love, always, always, always. And so that is the truth of us. We have to know ultimately that that is the truth of us. That is who we are. It is where we came from. It is where we will return. And just breathe that in, because that is the truth of us. And what we know in religious science is that God is triune in nature. It has three aspects: spirit, soul, body. Spirit, soul, body. So that spiritual part of us, that seed of perfection that is nestled within, that is our truth, our highest and best, the divine that lives within us. That part of us that has never known fear or loneliness, that part of us that has never been broken or afraid or less than perfect, that seed of perfection that is nestled within us, that is spirit. That is our highest and best good. We always say, I am whole, perfect, and complete, right? Even if we don't feel like it. Even if our humanness says very much the opposite of that. Even if conditions are just flying in the face of that, what do we know is true? We know we are whole, perfect, and complete. That means that seed of perfection within us, that spiritual truth within us, that light within us, that is the truth of who we are. It's already us. We don't have to learn it. We are birthless, deathless, timeless, immortal beings within. That is the truth of us. So unconditional love, like she says, stop telling that story. We're not here to learn that. We are that. We are that. That is the highest truth of us, is that we are born in the image and after the likeness of the Creator. And everything that Spirit is found within us. And we are left alone to discover our own inner divinity. Now, in the triune nature of God, you have spirit, soul, body, okay? So we are also soul. You know, that place, I think of soul as that place where heaven and earth meets within us. That place where heaven and earth meets within us. It is that part of us that knows our divinity, that does not question it, and that calls for us to live the life of spirit on earth. That soul within us that is calling for us to experience what it is, to practice universal love, to be spirit in form on earth. Our soul is calling for that experience. Our soul longs for us to experience what it's like to be in a body. I think that's why we're here. I know Ernest Holmes said that he loved the quote by Sri Aurobindo. When asked, why are we here? Sri Aurobindo said, we are here for the delight of God. And what a wonderful thing to think of. And I also think that we chose it. And I also think that we are here to experience. To experience. Because that spiritual nature within us, that perfection within us knows our wholeness, knows the truth of us, knows who we are. But it's our soul that craves the experience of being alive. The experience of being cold, wet, hungry, fulfilled, blissed out. The soul is craving all of those experiences. Practicing love, being love, experiencing love. The soul is craving all of it, the whole ride, not just half of it. And we find here in the West that we have a tendency to chase after pleasure and try to avoid pain. But our soul is not questioning either. And our soul is not preferring either. Our soul is just desiring the experience. All of the experience, the highs and the lows, everything in between. Desiring the entire experience of being in a body. So we practice universal love. We practice that. We practice being on earth, being in bodies. We practice feeling what it's like to struggle and to strive and to succeed and to fail and to fall. We experience all of it. And then, of course, we are body. It's the messy stuff. It's the messy stuff. So our soul longs to express, our soul longs for that authentic life, that life that only, we can. Our soul longs to live life as only we can. If God is universal, if God is all there is, and God has all of these qualities, beauty and balance and wisdom and wholeness, and we individualize that, we take a divine idea, which is spirit, and we personalize it, which is our soul. And then we experience it out in the real world, which is what our body does. So we are necessary here, each one of us, because you interpret beauty your own way. And nobody else can do it quite the same way you do it. So you take this universal concept, this God concept called love, and you personalize it, and then you demonstrate it as only you can. And I can't do it that way, and nobody else can do it that way, and that's why you're necessary. That's why you're here. Because you can only interpret, personalize, individualize those qualities of God the way you can. And I can do it the way I can, and each one of us does it individually. And that's why we're all here. That's why we have incarnated into these unique and individualized forms, so that spirit can have that experience of what it's like to love as you, as me, as each and every one of us on the planet. So we take that universal concept called love or beauty or abundance or whatever it is, we take that universal and we make it personal. And then we express it in the world as us. That's why we're here. That's why we're here. That body is what we cart around with us while we're doing it. That body is our vehicle for the feeling and the expressing and the living and the dreaming and the succeeding and the failing and the falling and the getting back up again. The body is just the vehicle that we use so that the soul can have those experiences. Our body is the way our thoughts and our feelings are made known in the physical world. It is the outpicturing of what we are expressing from our minds, through our feelings, and then out into the world. And this is where things get messy. Like she said in the quote, messy love, sweaty love, crazy, broken love, whole love, infused with divinity, lived through the grace of stumbling. This is where we do fall down, demonstrated through the beauty of messing up. I love that. It is so human. We bump up against each other and we learn how to do relationship. We couldn't do that if we weren't in form. We couldn't do that if we didn't have a body. We try and we fail and we mess up and we break things and we get angry and we blame people and we shame people and we run away and we do all the things that humans do. And we learn to love in these human bodies by doing all of those things that we do. We learn to love by doing all of that crazy stuff. Ernest Holmes, later on in his life, he was asked, if I had it to do all over again, would he have done anything differently? And what he said was, at the end of his career, he said, if I had it to do over, I would have talked a little less about the law, and I would have talked more about the love. And he said he didn't because he thought we had a handle on love, that we actually knew what it was about. So he didn't need to spend that much time on it. Little did he know, right? But we do need to talk about it because it is the messy part. And it is, our humanness a lot of times is run by our ego. And that's where things get ridiculous. Really, needing people to be this way or that way so that I can feel safe or I can feel comfortable, needing people to behave a certain way so that I can be okay in the room, having expectations that a person will or won't do a particular thing so that I can feel better. That old saying that what expectations are? Expectations are just resentments waiting to happen. That's all it is. Expectations are just resentments waiting to happen. Because people can't fulfill our need I have to start that one over. People cannot live up to our expectations of them. It's sort of like failing a test you don't know you're taking. It's enough to try to figure out what I'm doing some days. If I had to be in charge of what you were doing, we'd never get through the day. We would just never get through the day. But, ego wants what it wants, when it wants it, immediately, now, like yesterday. And ego wants things to be a certain way, our way. Did you notice? Not anybody else's way. But ego always wants it to be our way. And then what if we don't get it? We hold people wrong. We hold people wrong if we don't get what we want, or if we don't get it the way we thought we ought to get it. We hold people as wrong. And then we stop loving them, darn it. We just stop loving them. They get outside of our circle, right? Do you have a bubble, your little bubble of all the people you love, and then everybody else is on the outside of that? And sometimes those people inside the bubble get kicked out, depending on what they've done. We hold people as wrong. Sometimes we even give up on love altogether. Yeah, it's too messy. It's too dangerous. I feel too vulnerable. I feel weak. I feel I am at the effect of someone else. Oh my God, if I love somebody unconditionally, I could get hurt. I'll never do that again. I'll never do that again. Maya Angelou says, to those who have given up on love, she says, trust life a little bit. Just trust life a little bit. We have to keep going back to the truth, going back to what we know, going back to that, I'm here to experience. I'm the only one calling this good or bad. I'm the only one judging this experience as wrong or bad or awful because it didn't work out the way I thought it ought to. Because who's in control after all? We think we are, but isn't that another funny story? But that's another talk for another day. We hold people as wrong when they don't live up to our expectations of what we think they ought to be doing, either for us or for themselves or for life in general. And And that's where our work is. That's the place where the work needs to be done. You know, I'm reading this really good book right now called The Tools. I don't know if you've heard of it. They just did a really nice review of it in the Times. But anyway, it's called The Tools: Transform Your Problems into Courage, Confidence, and Creativity. Sounds very New Thought to me. Anyway, it's Phil Stutz and Barry Michaels. One's a psychiatrist and one's a psychologist. And they really they wrote this great book that has a tremendous amount of tools in each chapter has a tool at the end that you can use to transform your life. Sound familiar? Anyway, it's really good, and I wanted to call them up and say, hey, we're doing the same thing. This is great. But anyway, they describe a process of holding people wrong like falling into a maze. When we hold someone wrong, we have fallen into the maze of our own thinking. And we keep going around and around and around, and it's like this labyrinth, and we can't stop thinking about what they did to us. You know, how they betrayed us, or how they fouled up our lives, or how they messed things up for the relationship, or whatever. And we fall into this maze, and we go around and around and around, and we become trapped in our own thoughts. And while we are in this maze, doing this, life is passing us by. Life is passing us by. And he said, we know when we are in the maze, when we're blaming other people for our situation. When we're blaming our parents who never supported us, we can't be an artist, or we're blaming the government for, the lousy economy, or we're blaming our boss for being a jerk, or we're blaming, whatever. We always know that we're in the maze when we're blaming others. And so the authors suggest this practical tool in this particular chapter on love. And the tool that they use is called the outflow. And I just love it, the outflow. And they define the outflow as this: the infinite spiritual force that gives of itself without restraint. Well, hell, that's God. They call it the outflow. That's okay. We can call it spirit, or, God, or Bob, or whatever you want to call it. The outflow, the infinite spiritual force that gives of itself without restraint. Okay, that's God, that's spirit, that's love, that's love. And they said that there is three steps to this particular tool. They said the first step is concentration, that we're to gather up all of the feelings of love that we've ever felt before, or we could ever feel. We gather up all of those feelings of love for life, for joy, for living, for breathing. We just gather them from all corners of our experience of being alive. And this is, this first step he calls concentration. It's just a gathering to ourselves. Now you can feel that, can't you? You can just sit in meditation sometimes and just think of all the loving thoughts, think of all the loving experiences or events you've had in your life, and just call all of those to you. The second step he calls transmission. Send that love right into the heart of the person you're being challenged with. Yeah, keep breathing. Come on, there was like a noticeable no breathing happening in the room for a second there. Okay, just keep breathing. Send all of that from your heart into theirs. Your heart into theirs. Just this flow. I know we do it when we do the chakra colors. A lot of times we do the heart chakra as green, and we send a glowing green light, out from our heart into another person or into people half a world away, whatever. So this is step 2 in his book. Transmission. We send this love that we have gathered to ourselves, and we just shoot it out of our heart and into that person. In our minds, we just hold them as being filled with this endless stream of love from our heart to their heart. And now the third step he calls penetration. And what they mean by that is to absolutely feel it. Feel what that loving connection feels like. To actually set it up in your body so you can feel what that loving energy feels like. Make it real to you. Feel the warmth, or feel the glow, or feel the color, whatever color you want to make it. Feel whatever that is, and feel that endless stream of love connecting your two hearts, and make it real for you. I love that description. I love that tool. That is a great tool for us to have and to use. I would call it forgiveness. And I think that's what we call it here, forgiveness. When you hold someone in the truth of who they are, when you hold someone, when you see someone as God sees them, that's what this practice is. It is returning us to see people as God sees them. So I don't care what it's called. I don't care that he calls it the outflow or whatever. This is our practice then. This is our practice. And you can use those 3 steps. I think they're marvelous steps. And if that gets you there, that's wonderful. This is what we do. We practice a practical spirituality. So if those 3 steps will get you there, use them. We can claim it. Like Ernest Holmes said, truth can't be copyrighted. It's just available for all of us. So, let's claim that as one of our tools too. If it works for you, use it. Use it. Gather up that love that you know exists, that is the truth of you. Send it to that person or that place or that event or that country or whatever is causing you to be upset or to not see the wholeness of the situation. Send it all out there. Send it all out there. And then feel that connection. Feel the connection from the tip of your toes all the way up through the top of your head. Feel what that feels like. This is what they said in the book. They said it's calling on this higher power to intervene. Calling on the higher power to intervene, and that's what we're doing. We're calling on the highest aspect of our own inner nature to see as it does. To see as it does. And to look upon any situation that we find ourselves in with the same love as the divine does, because that is who we are. It goes right back to what we said in the beginning. The seed of perfection nestled within us. That is who we are. It's the truth of us. And we get to choose how we're going to look upon any scene, how we're going to look upon any event, how we're going to look on any person, with love or with fault, with love or with condemnation. It's always our choice. And right there, right in the heat of the moment, when you're just, wanting to tell them how the cow ate the cabbage, you just breathe, and you go into that step 1, gathering up all the love that surrounds you. And maybe it means counting to 10 or going for a walk or turning and walking away for a minute, whatever it is that it takes. Do the steps, what we would call forgiveness. It is the highest and best within us responding to any situation in which we find ourselves. And that's looking with love. Because that's looking with the eyes of God. That's looking from the divine within us. Ernest Holmes wrote this book, Journey into Life. And he said this on the chapter on love. Love will find the solution within itself to every problem, will answer every question. It is the lodestone of life, the center of reality, the heart of the universe, and it will ultimately win and vanquish every foe. Hate destroys until love heals. For love is greater than hate, and finally, love is triumphant. And the misunderstandings of hate are consumed in its divine passion, its universal flame. Love is the victor in every case. Love breaks down the iron bars of thought, shatters the walls of false belief, severs the chains of bondage which thought has imposed, and sets us, its captives, free. If one makes himself receptive to the idea of love, he becomes lovable. To the degree that he embodies love, he is love, so people who love are loved. Divine love interprets itself to everyone who knows love, comes to everyone who senses love, impersonates itself in forms which are human and in experiences which are divine. The only one who knows anything about love is the one who loves. Thank you.